yeah, I think the Bryan Singer X-Men movies and James Mangold's Wolverine movies is all I've been watching.
Oh, goody. I do have some things to talk about, but we'll get to that momentarily. Welcome back to the Hack Fraud Show. We're all glad to be all together once again. We have both Garretts.
Yay! They had to bring me. It's an X-Men week. We're doing comic book. You had to bring me back.
When your mic cut out, I said, like, we can't do a comic book episode without Warner. This would be sacrilege.
Yes.
He's not wrong.
He is not wrong. So this week is going to be our big, all-encompassing X-Men discussion to celebrate the release of Logan. We're a week late, but who cares?
Hey, who gives? Everyone sees a movie a week late anyway.
That's true. We've watched,
unless it's Star Wars, The Force Awakens.
Fuck Star Wars.
Oh, okay, I see.
We'll fuck the Disney iteration of Star Wars.
You know, I was sitting in the theater, like, waiting for Logan to start the other day, and I was, for some reason, I was just thinking, and boy, The Force Awakens is just a nothing movie.
Well, I don't know. I think...
I was like, there are so many X-Men movies I would rather watch than watch The Force Awakens again at this point.
Well, I remember, like, when sitting in The Force Awakens, because it was the kind of movie experience where, like, people would applause at the movie and things like that. And I was thinking, like, what the fuck do they see in this? This is nothingness. This movie has nothing to say. It is doing nothing interesting. I guess it looks cool, but
it
beyond
does look
that,
cool.
Exactly. We're gonna have to do like a Star Wars episode at some point.
Yes.
I think this is something that cannot go unaddressed for too long.
Oh boy.
It'll be something.
We're not gonna have to rewatch Attack of the Clones for that, are we?
Oh, please no.
Please no.
Tyler, I've never seen the prequels. I never intend to see the prequels.
Oh. Well then, you know what that means.
You people are not going to make me watch the goddamn Star Wars prequels, are you?
Well, okay. There are people I know and respect that ride hard for Revenge of the Sith.
Well, they're wrong.
They are very wrong, but we'll talk about that later.
I've seen Red Letter Media's like 90-minute reviews of those movies. I think I've seen all I need.
I mean, look, I don't want to open a can of worms. Let's just go.
We'll talk about that at some point down the line.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Star Wars coming soon.
Coming eventually. Has anyone besides me been watching anything? There are a few things I would like to talk about.
I've been watching the X-Men films.
I was going to say, that's about all I've watched.
Yeah, no.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll have a few things here. I watched the first volume of Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill.
Ooh. Isn't that Quentin Tarantino's Nader?
I don't think it's his Nader. I think that is generally considered to be Death Proof.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
The one part of the double feature Grindhouse that he made with Robert Rodriguez. Kill Bill, I don't think they're his Nader. They were pretty well received, but like it seems like people don't talk about them as much, but I think like Tarantino fans ride pretty hard for them. After watching the first one, I don't get it.
Well, what's the problem with it?
Well, okay, see, it's one movie that was split into two, so I feel like I can't really say anything definitive about it until I've watched the second part.
I'm going to stop you there. Every movie must stand on its own.
But
every movie. It
was a 4-hour movie that they split into two parts and released in two parts so people wouldn't have to sit through.
When you do that, you have to assume that someone would watch one and not the other. This is how movie making works.
Yeah. Watching it, though, I feel like he could have made a 2.5-hour movie. There is a lot of stuff. It's Tarantino, he is very deliberately paced in his filmmaking, and this just had all of that deliberate pacing with like none of the great dialogue and character work that he's known for. It was mostly absurdly over the top violence, which is great in his movies, but when a movie is all that and none of the other stuff, it can be a little wearing.
As someone who already has an issue with like not major issue, but like some just quibbles with the Tarantino operating style, I see no reason to go out and see Kill Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. Logan is one of the most violent movies I've ever seen, and we'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
But Kill Bill, watching that shortly afterwards, and another movie I watched this week, Neil Blomkamp's District 9, I watched a lot of very violent movies this week. Kill Bill, do you know about this? It ends with like a 25-minute like martial arts fight scene, and they had to turn it. They had to turn it black and white to keep the movie rated R. for part of it, she slices a guy in half vertically. For kids.
It's a family picture.
Anyway, I'm gonna watch the second part at some point, but as of right now, I can't really recommend Kill Bill.
Well, Tarantino seems like someone who is, I think, like Mark Kermode feels the same way about this. He's someone who is surrounded by fanboyish yes men. Mm. So, like, for every great idea, there's just going to be something that just needs to be trimmed down, and something that just needs to be restrained.
Yeah.
Which is, I think maybe we should go back to, like, I'd like to see, like, Jackie Brown at some point.
I would as well. But District 9, I enjoyed. Ooh. It's a good movie. The beginning of it has a lot of, like, weird kind of body horror stuff that I'm not really into, which may make it difficult if and when we ever do a David Cronenberg episode, but the rest of the movie has it's got some interesting like social messages stuff, and the effects are actually very good, which is interesting considering I think that movie was like a $30 million movie.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the aliens are very well designed and very well animated. It's a pretty good story. It's also got this weird thing where like it starts as like a mockumentary and it's kind of done in like a mockumentary style, but there's no way they could have gotten this kind of footage, and there are parts where like they definitely have like reaction shots and stuff, so they kind of abandon the mockumentary approach halfway through the movie, which doesn't really make sense, but
they kind of just cheated for drama.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's not the worst.
Yeah, you could do worse. So District 9, I do recommend. It's an interesting movie.
It's one that kind of comes up a lot as far as like movies of the 2000s.
Yeah. I guess since we're talking about X-Men, this week's episode of Legion was batshit bonkers.
I haven't seen Legion since the pilot. I need to go back into that.
Okay.
What is Legion?
It's a TV show inspired by X-Men that's airing on FX right now. It's kind of a mind-fucky, twisty, turny, very cerebral kind of show. It's not just kind of superhero stuff, but it's very interesting.
I must ask this. Is the action just as terrible as it was in the pilot?
They've gone smaller with... There hasn't been a ton of action since then, and they've gone smaller with it, so it seems fine.
Okay, good. Because the action in the pilot was awful.
I didn't think so, but whatever. I
just showed Alex just like the last like tracking shot at the end. He just laughed his goddamn ass off anytime when little CGI ragdolls are just flicked across the screen. Are we ready?
Oh wait, I forgot. Okay, sorry. I have one more movie to talk about. I totally forgot about this. Just last night, I watched the 2016 remake of Pete's Dragon.
Oh.
Which John, it was actually pretty good.
You were a part of the problem.
Oh, I didn't pay to see it. My friend has it on Blu-ray because he really enjoyed it and he got it. And look, if you're going to remake a Disney movie, I think Pete's Dragon was one of the right ones. I'm not seeing that fucking live action Beauty and the Beast. That I'm not going to see that.
But it looks fun.
I don't care.
It does look fun, and it's probably gonna be. And I'm probably gonna walk out of the theater disappointed should I be dragged to see it. So
you go see Get Out instead when it comes out. Just like in the middle of Beauty and the Beast, just like slink out of the movie theater and go see Get Out.
Yes, do that. Because
I'm going to see it at some point this week.
Anyway, all I wanted to say is Pete's Dragon is one of the more charming fake E.T. movies I've seen.
That's a genre now. That is.
Yeah, it's a good kids movie. It's charming. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
It's better than The Jungle Book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, The Jungle Book is just the one that made me realize, like, yeah, all of these are going to be this.
Cinderella was okay.
Cinderella was okay. I agree.
Go to movies for okay.
All right, let's.
I go to remakes for okay.
Well, that's why I don't go to. Well, I can't say. If I said no remakes, then I wouldn't be able to go to half the movies that come out each year. So
Right.
yeah, that's it's a conundrum.
All right, let's talk some X-Men.
Yeah, let's talk some non-Disney movies.
All right, so let me just retell my kind of background on these movies real quick. So I never really cared about the X-Men movies. I never really cared about superhero movies in general. The way I came to superhero movies was I saw The Dark Knight and loved that.
And you're like, oh my god, they must all be like this. Oh wait, they aren't.
Well, that's not exactly what I thought, but then I saw Thor in theaters for some reason. I think my
It was a different time.
I think my grandpa wanted to see a movie with me, and like Thor was like the only vaguely interesting thing playing at the time. So I saw that. I saw Avengers, and like everyone else, I thought that was pretty good. So that kind of started me down that road. And then eventually I saw X-Men First Class. I think I caught it on cable or something and really liked it. It's a really good movie. And then from there, I think I saw the Wolverine, and then I saw Days of Future Past. And then finally, like last year, seeing X-Men Apocalypse like up against Civil War, I finally realized that like the X-Men movies like are my favorite superhero franchise right now.
Well, granted, my history is even weirder because, like, my introduction to cinema is really fucked up and stilted. The first X-Men movie I ever saw. The first X-Men movie I ever saw was Days of Future Past.
Same.
And seeing that, I remember just kind of being lukewarm on it. But I thought, like, oh, there's some intriguing things in here, so I decided to go back and watch, like, the original two. And I really like the original two. So eventually I sought out First Class, and eventually I sought out the Wolverine. And then I saw Apocalypse and Logan, and here I am. So I've ever since, like, watching, like, the first two Bryan Singer ones, I've kind of always been on, like, the X-Men train.
I had not seen the original Bryan Singer 2. I still haven't seen the first one. Those just earlier era of superhero movies, just it's like, and I know I'm gonna sound like a fucking millennial here, but like it's like the earlier Bond movies. Like I just can't, man. Like with the older superhero movies, like the Tim Burton's Batman has never really appealed to me. The original
Statement hurts me physically, Tyler.
Those words give me pain.
The original Spider-Man I wasn't too jazzed on, and the first couple of X-Men movies I just never really had much interest in going back to watch. That said, should we just dive into X2 here?
Yeah, let's go. I can't say I really have a hit. In regards, like, the early, like, the first wave of the current superhero renaissance, I think in that glut are some of the most interesting superhero movies. Because, like, in that glut, we got Batman Begins.
Yeah.
And we also got, like, Ang Lee's weird-ass Hulk movie, and we got Superman Returns, and we got the batshit crazy Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And what ended that was, like, Marvel coming in, and then everything just became normalized at that point. And I think that's the worst thing that happened, the superhero movies. So I think like that like early era from like 2000 to 2008, it's really hit or miss. But like I do think there's some genuine gems in there.
Well,
in regards to the superhero genre.
Well, one of the big notes I had with X2 was that it feels like a very different era of superhero movies.
Yes.
Just in that they have like a bunch of like Easter eggs in there that aren't just like continuity things. They're just like for people who've read the comics, like that scene in the bar where like the TV's on and like the guy's interviewing Dr. Hank McCoy. Ooh.
Ooh.
But one thing I really like about the X-Men movies is that they still haven't been completely consumed by like the Marvel continuity style.
Yeah. Well, first of all, like they're goddamn movies.
Yeah.
Like they have a focus. They have they have defined themes that aren't just let's get to the next movie. And like they're movies about it's movies about building a world. Yeah. And exploring the ideas inherent in that world. And they've never broken away from that.
Yeah.
They've done some excursions, and they've gone batshit crazy bullshit at times.
Deadpool.
And X3 and the masterpiece X-Men Origins Wolverine.
which you've seen, and I haven't.
Oh, it's so bad. I love it. It's so fucking funny. Regardless, like, yeah, I think there's a defined, like, and unique X-Men world, and well, I think this is something I noticed watching X2. They have really stuck hard to, like, the core idea that Stan Lee ran with in the original comic books. That, like, mutants are, like, whatever persecuted minority you want to put at. And Bryan Singer really latched on to, like, the gay rights allegory, but the film is up. These things are also broad enough that, like, it could just be any minority.
Yeah.
And like, and not just like that whole ham-handed sort of like, oh, it's like civil rights, but with mutants. There's also some genuine discussions about like what routes these movements should take and what attitudes you should take as a persecuted minority, and they are often really fleshed out and fairly intelligent for a big blockbuster.
Fun fact: Bryan Singer is bisexual.
He is, and these things feel authentic.
Yeah.
John mentioned that they link on to the gay rights movement, and look at X3, the third X-Men movie. There is literally a cure for mutants to get them out of being mutants, I guess, and it really shows how people think and how people address the problems, and it's. X-Men 3 has its problems. It really does.
By being an awful movie.
But it does have some important things to see. And one of those is, I know these guys are going to comment on how very little Rogue seems to be important in
X2, and
she's basically just there as, oh, hey, she still exists. In X-Men 3, she goes to get the cure because she doesn't like her powers and she wants to be normal. And there's a lot of controversy at the X-Men mansion about that.
So. Well, and also, like, in X2, of course, you have, like, the line, like, have you ever tried not being a mutant? So
Okay. I admire that scene for what it's trying to do, but man, it feels dated in all the worst ways.
Oh my god, like that's... Well, granted, X2 has like a litany of great lines, and great in the ironic sense, such as Velcro. Nice. And we developed the technology that built his plastic prison. And too much iron in your blood.
Okay, just to address the Rogue thing real quick, I love how there's literally a separate cut of Days of Future Past called the Rogue Cut, where there's like an extra half hour of footage featuring Rogue.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah, it exists. I've never seen it. I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit either, but
I actually like Rogue as a character. I don't like their version of Rogue. I prefer either extreme because she has been done two ways. Three if you count the X-Men movies. She is either the Southern Belle or a goth, depressed chick. And they tried way too hard to combine those two.
boy, they tried real hard to strike right in the middle of that in the movies.
Yeah. I actually really like the first movie's version of Rogue and her relationship to Wolverine.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting, but the issue is they just drop that going forward, and it's literally just hi, how are you doing in one of the first scenes of X2, and then just never again.
So let's talk X2 here.
Yeah. 2003, Bryan Singer directed.
Yes. So I liked it more than I expected to.
Okay.
Because my issues with early 2000s superhero movies are.
It has 2003 written all over it.
Yeah, it does. But I will say this: I don't think it's best superhero movies of all time material. A lot of people kind of vouch for it as one of the best superhero movies ever, and I'm not really on that train. It does do a lot of interesting things. I will say that.
I'd argue it's the most coherent one they've ever made.
I would argue that it's not necessarily their most coherent one. It is their best one as a whole, but I agree with Tyler. It's not cut for one of the best superhero movies.
Well, what would you say is the most coherent X-Men movie, Warner?
Honestly, of the I haven't seen Apocalypse.
Oh, Apocalypse is not coherent at all.
So you don't need to worry about that.
Okay. Well, I would honestly say that the first one is probably, in my opinion, the most coherent, just because it has to explain everything and put down the basis.
Well, the problem with the first one is that you get that, this is something to talk about in Vidiots, is you get that whole, you get this excellent two-hander with Rogue and Wolverine, and it's about, two people, relating over, a shared experience. And then they get to the X-Mansion, and it's hello, my name is Professor X. That is Storm. That is Scott Summers. And it just turns into a big introduction-a-thon. So I don't even think that one's... I actually really like the first X-Men movie, but even that one I don't think is the most coherent one. And granted, all of these kind of have the issue of, really great vignettes stapled together.
If I can cut in just for a second, I think the most coherent one is First Class.
I was going to put in, it's either the first one or First Class for me.
I really like First Class. It's a really good, solid movie, and it has very clear and well done character arcs. Magneto's journey and arc in that movie is a very interesting thing that they don't kind of allow to happen in superhero movies a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, First Class really benefits from they really said okay, this is going to be the Magneto Professor X movie.
Yeah.
That's what this is going to be, and we're just going to run with that. And it really benefits from that.
And it's really good, and I love that they actually went with the original style for the X-Men costumes. That made me very happy. But
well, I am going to say this, is that, my issues with First Class is that I hate any character not named Magneto or Professor X in that movie. This is my issue with some of the X-Men movies, is that, sometimes I just really love the first two acts, and then just loses me for the third act.
I like the third act of First Class. They have the whole Cuban Missile Crisis thing, and...
Oh, wait.
Stupid as fuck.
That's First Class?
Yeah.
Yeah, where they have
Okay, I've seen that before. Okay, I've seen that part before. Okay.
It's stupid as shit.
It is a little stupid, but
I'm sorry, I'm bringing out my gun already.
Here's the thing, though. It's kind of interesting to, see the X-Men sort of weaved into, mainstream history, like the Missile Crisis and also in Days of Future Past with Nixon. Shit.
Well, I kind of hate that, but we'll get to that when we get to Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Okay. I just kind of want to run down X2 real quick here.
Yeah,
okay. So
we'll get back to that.
It's a good movie. There's a lot of little touches in there. Bryan Singer is so good at those little details that really help sell things.
Yeah.
the thing with like Iceman freezing Wolverine's Dr. Pepper.
Well, that whole sequence where like Wolverine gets up and just walks around the mansion for a bit is just wonderful. You get a little kid just like
the little kid like changing the channel by blinking. That's wonderful. That whole sequence.
Nightcrawler is so great.
Nightcrawler is great. The first action scene in this movie is very, very good.
I'd argue it's one of the best sort of like little contained superhero power scenes of all time.
Like,
I have one complaint with that scene, and that none of them gagged on the smell of sulfur, because anytime Nightcrawler disappears, he generates a smell of sulfur.
Warner, is this whole thing going to be you like nitpicking how they don't follow the comics exactly?
Actually, I believe it's actually hydrogen sulfide. Because that's usually responsible for smell.
What is wrong with you people?
Okay. Let's get this thing back on track here.
So X2, Bryan Singer is great with little moments, you were saying.
Yes, he's good at making like small, contained things like feel epic, and also at like finding small character beats in big moments, which is something I'll talk about with Days of Future Past.
Yes.
I think Stryker...
Look at the Storm and Nightcrawler thing in the fake Cerebro.
Yeah.
I love the little Nightcrawler. I love anything with Nightcrawler in the movie, but the little Nightcrawler Storm bits are some of the most poignant moments.
Yeah.
But continue, Tyler. We keep cutting you off.
That's fine. Okay, I think Stryker is an okay villain. There's kind of like nice personal stakes in there for both him and for Logan, because he's kind of trying to discover his past and his backstory, and
he's kind of a fucked up father figure of sorts.
Yeah, in a weird way. And I love how he like always calls him Wolverine. Like that's just a nice little detail. Stryker is fine. It's a little weird that how fixated on him Bryan Singer is. Just in terms of like always bringing him back.
It's just a weird thing about these movies where like the X-Men universe just happens to exist in some like nightmare authoritarian vision of the United States where like the government's just like always doing like these grand military operations against mutants, and there's Holocaust imagery everywhere.
Yeah.
And Stryker's plan is literally genocide.
Yeah. And his kind of relationship with his son is very kind of fucked up and interesting.
Yeah. And the relationship between Professor X and that son is really fascinating.
Yeah.
You guys caught the fact that mutant in X2, Stryker's son, is the villain in the in Logan, right?
I don't think so. No.
If that's the case, then they just really shot the continuity out of a shotgun and said "fuck."
No, it was someone else. It was like someone who was involved with like the Alkali Lake project.
Specifically said that he was Stryker's son.
Did they do that?
Unless Stryker has another son.
No, his name is Xander Rice. So he's
the villain that the movie doesn't even care about.
Oh shit! What was I saying? Oh, okay. Speaking of Alkali Lake, Darren Franch is right. That location is not that interesting.
Well, that's the thing about like if we spent less time in it, I wouldn't be angry with it. But like, yeah you're right. It does. Like I always like when I watch like X-Men and X2 back to back. I always think like I get like 2/3 into X2 and I'm like, yeah, this is the better movie. But then we get to Alkali Lake, and with like it just gets all into like corridor fights, and then there's that terrible fight between Scott and Wolverine, which is just terrible.
They spend so much time at Alkali Lake. And
I'm just like, just get us out of here. Like, and when they do get out, it starts getting like when they finally when they get into Cerebro and they do like the mind fuck things with Jason.
Yeah,
that's interesting. But just when it's just fighting in corridors, I'm like, stop it.
Yeah,
stop it.
And just one other thing with the end of this movie, I still don't think Jean Grey's sacrifice at the end makes any sense, other than
Jean Grey makes no sense in this movie.
Other than like we got to kill her so that we can bring her back as Phoenix. Like they're very explicitly like prepping for the Phoenix saga for the next movie, and
it doesn't work because Jean doesn't have that much of a character.
That, and also like why could she not do all of that from inside the jet.
Hollywood Bowl. This is what we're gonna get to in all of these movies. Some things really fucking work, and then there are things like Jean Grey and Scott Summers, and I'm like, nope, this does not work.
I hate Cyclops. Can I say that?
Everyone hates Cyclops.
You'd actually be surprised. He has a very large fan following, which I don't understand.
Well, everyone hates the movie version of Cyclops.
Cyclops sucks. He's just there to be like an obstacle so Wolverine can't have what he wants. And
he is the Aquaman of X-Men villains.
Well, I think the movie realizes that, so they just like got him out of the movie for like 90% of it.
That is true.
Because what you realize is that the culling of the characters in this movie, like, okay, we're gonna get rid of everyone in the X Mansion. We're just gonna give you Iceman, Pyro, Wolverine, Storm, Jean, Magneto, and Mystique. And there's also Nightcrawler. It's like, okay, this is all we can manage.
And Rogue.
Oh shit!
Not letting you notice her.
Exactly. We're just gonna cull this to what we actually like, and then just move on from there.
Yeah,
that's what this movie's plan is.
This movie, I did like it. It's a good movie. It's got the same kind of problems as a bunch of the other X-Men movies. It's got these frayed edges that just, aren't followed through on. It's got good stuff. It's got not so good stuff. It's kind of a mixed bag. It still kind of comes out as a net positive, though. I think the performances are all good. Brian Cox, I think, was just...
Oh, he's having so much fun.
If you're gonna have a villain like Stryker, like, cast Brian Cox. He's just tearing it up, having a great time. It's far from my favorite X-Men movie. It maybe hasn't aged great, but there is a lot of good stuff in it.
Yeah. Problems with this movie. I'm going to get into my general thoughts on it. Jean Grey doesn't fucking work. 2003 is written all over it. Sometimes there's some janky ass CGI. We spend way too much time at Alkali Lake in those goddamn green corridors. But I am going to vouch for this as like the all-around best constructed one. Because I feel like with a lot of these, it's like all of these kind of have it's vignettes, and they're all like really well constructed vignettes, but they've just been stapled together by a man with no hands. This one, it feels like they actually got someone to sew them together, and it doesn't feel like we're just cutting to a different movie every single other sequence. And some of I think the look of it is a little bit better than some of them. I actually kind of like its weird wide angle lens.
Yes. I do like the way Bryan Singer has this weird exaggerated style of shooting. I do like that.
And he'll put things really close to the frame, and they're really exaggerated in the shot. And I like all the goofy angles, and I actually really like some of the lighting is really cool too. Yeah. They go for some really harsh film noir style stuff at time, and I think that really works, especially when Stryker's on screen. I think it has some of the best little moments, like Mystique talking to a Nightcrawler and he says well, why don't you just stay in disguise all the time? And she says we shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect summation of just any minority movement. There's the great stuff between Nightcrawler. Well, Nightcrawler is just a great character, and what they do with him is great. And just the little details of him just being covered in these tattoos, one for every sin. That performance is great. I love of course, what's good about this movie is also what's good about a lot of the other movies. Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are just perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. Every scene they're in is just a showstopper. The stuff they do with Professor X in this movie, with him and Jason, and there's this weird ass horror film image of of Professor X just in the office, and he looks down and he has legs, and then they come back to him in the wheelchair. He's like, "Stop it!" And that's part of the movie is just filled with stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think some of the filmmaking it is better than some of the stuff they've had in the rest of it. I think it coheses more than a lot of the other ones. I think can I quite say this is the best superhero movie of all time? I think it has some of the elements. that you could say to it. Like, I think you can make the argument like this is like the arrival of like the serious superhero movie.
Yeah.
And not in a way that seems just so dated and cliche today.
Right.
So like I will vouch for it as like if not the best, one of the best of this series.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I just, my personal preference lies more with First Class and Days of Future Past, which let's get into that, shall we?
Well, let's Warner, what's your kind of final thoughts on X2? Because Reed, you didn't see it, right?
No, I did not.
So Warner, what's your kind of final thoughts on X2? I don't care if this is just going to be some massively long roving episode.
I loved it. I agree. I hated Gene and I hated Scott. Storm was entertaining. Rogue was criminally underused.
Yeah.
Pyro's an asshat. You guys basically said it better than I could, so I really
you kind of just wholesale on like its musings on the mutant on its mutant allegory are some of the finest in the series, and like it has some of the best little moments in the series.
The three original X-Men movies, in my opinion, encompass the mutant struggles from the comics the best that any of these ever have, and the second one and the third one do it the best of those three. Third one slightly more just because it actually shows out on the streets the struggles that some of them face, but the whole scene with Bobby's parents is phenomenal. And his poor brother.
The fucking asshole brother who calls the cops.
You have suddenly strange people are in your home and your brother is claiming to be a mutant who, as far as you would know, are villains. So I can't blame him. I can't fault him. And that scene is extraordinarily well done. And fuck Pyro.
Okay, so are we ready for Days of Future
Yes,
Past?
okay. I think
I am going to notice is like the First Class trilogy. Starting with First Class, it's more like this is a war, and like there are different sides to this war. Specifically, it's more like an even fight.
Yeah.
Rather than like we are persecuted.
They do that because that's how Magneto views it, and that's how some of the normal people view it, like Stryker and what's his face, Trask. That's how they view it.
Yeah.
All right, so Days of Future Past, I think we're going to get into it a little bit here, because this one, I mean, I love First Class, and for me, I'm always like going back and forth between Days of Future Past and First Class for what I think is like the best and my personal favorite.
Yeah.
I think Days of Future Past might have a slight edge, if only because it has like the best of both worlds from like both trilogies. Like everyone else, I love Wolverine. And so he's doing great stuff. Hugh Jackman is so good in this movie.
Oh my god, this is one of his best performances.
This is literally a Wolverine movie with Professor X and Magneto fighting on the sides.
Well, see, I'm not sure I agree with that, because
neither do I.
The first I also love the First Class cast, and McAvoy and Fassbender, like, I don't want to say they're better than Stewart and McKellen, because I think maybe they're just given like more rich material. Yeah. But
oh god, they're so compelling.
They nail the dynamic between Professor X and Magneto, and they sell these parts. They're acting the shit out of it. They're so good.
The scene where Magneto just snaps in the plane, and he's just yelling down McAvoy as like he crumples the little private jet. That is a showstopper.
Yeah. They are great. I think that they just nailed the casting on the First Class mutants. McAvoy and Fassbender are great. Jennifer Lawrence, I mean, you can say what you want about her.
At the time, I didn't really care for her in this movie. Part of me was like, okay, I know she's somewhat involved, like to like expose ? But it's sort of like I think that maybe someone else can serve that purpose instead of Jennifer Lawrence.
Well, first thing, she looks awful in the makeup.
She
The
does.
makeup is like it's this weird shade of blue. The eyes never look right. Like the hair looks so like they just shoved a wig on her. Like she just doesn't look right in this makeup. And well, granted, in the first ones they do kind of manipulation to the voice to kind of give you this idea that she's a bit more mysterious and foreign in that regard, and maybe because Jennifer Lawrence just didn't want that shit, they do away with that. So it's just like Jennifer Lawrence painted blue as a performance, and I just don't think that works as well.
I mean, Mystique is like not the best character, and there's they have such a weird fixation with her in this movie.
They're building this whole trilogy around her.
Yeah, and that's kind of weird, but okay, look. I love Days of Future Past. It is a rollicking good time. It's such a fun movie. They've got some great set pieces in that. Just not even like, I mean, everyone talks about the Quicksilver scene, but like that whole sequence of like breaking Magneto out of the Pentagon is a great little set piece.
Yeah, where like
That
they
is
go,
a good set, yes.
like he puts a note in the lunch and it says "Watch for glass," and you just get little Quicksilver, just little smile. That's so great.
I absolutely adore the fact that when they show up at his house, he's like, he doesn't care. He's just zooming around all over the place. And then they're like, we need you to do something. And then they sell him on it by saying, you, a sociopath, get to break into the Pentagon. And he's just sold.
I am going to say this, is that, like, I kind of feel similar about Days of Future Past that I do about Apocalypse. And, like, a lot, and like, with a lot of these movies, that, like, yet, like, these little vignettes we're talking about, like, the Quicksilver Pentagon breakout of Magneto, the, like, scene where they're in the private jet, like, or at least the idea around that final fight. Like, these are great, well-constructed vignettes, well shot, mostly well acted. I kind of hate the First Class cast outside of Magneto and Professor X. But the issue is that, like, I think this is it's kind of put together sloppily. I feel like I'm in a different movie every other scene, especially considering, like, we cut back to them in China every once in a while, and it just feels so out of place.
Well,
and, like,
yes.
And them kicking out Quicksilver is so much sloppier than, like, what they would do in the other movies when they just wanted to kick out characters, like when Scott just gets abducted in X2.
I mean, okay. I mean, you make some good points, but I think this movie does kind of cohese as just a full thing. This movie is about something. This movie is about, like, the march of time and how, like, some things are kind of just inevitable and you can't really change them.
And the development of Professor X.
The development
is something that they carry through the whole thing.
Yeah, God, James McAvoy is so good. That his kind of whole journey through this movie, just kind of him coming back from, like, his just lowest point and kind of rising to kind of meet the challenge again. Wolverine kind of doing for him what Professor X once did for Wolverine, just kind of rescuing him from just his darkest moments. I love all that. I love the scene where McAvoy goes to talk to Patrick Stewart.
That's such a dreamlike sequence. It's so gorgeous.
Whatever narrative shortcut they use to make that try to make sense. Whatever, it works, and they really sell it.
And that's where I'm kind of at with this movie, is that, like, I'm kind of in the position of, like, I don't really care that it's just been stapled together. Like, the two Professor X's speaking to each other is just a showstopper. Like, honestly, like, I love, like, the ending of this movie, or at least I love the idea of the ending of this movie, which is, no, we can't, it's not about let's get rid of this villain. It's what that final finale comes down to is Professor X talking to Mystique, and pretty much saying violence is bad, and saying it in such an eloquent and calming way. And I just can't think, what's another blockbuster climax?
That's what I'm talking about.
Which is about talking someone off of a ledge.
That's what I was talking about earlier. With, like, Bryan Singer, like, knows how to find the small character beats in these kind of huge moments. But even, like, this movie, like, feels big without, like, being too huge. Like, the climax takes place on the White House lawn.
And he raises up RFK Stadium and surrounds and uses it to surround the White House. I'm just like, that's such a particular and wonderful little. It's kind of a detail. It's like this huge event, but it's like the details of it are just so inventive and fleshed out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one thing we're going to get to, like, with the Bryan Singer X-Men movies, is that, like, as much as these things fall flat in as far as a narrative is concerned, like, the moments and sequences are just so well constructed and just so well realized that you kind of just don't even care that, like, like, they literally just tell Quicksilver to leave in a car, and that's the end of Quicksilver. Or we just cut to Magneto and Mystique just in the Paris metro, and it makes no goddamn sense why both of them are there. But that's a great little scene where they're talking to each other.
Yeah.
I can't say I can just ignore just how stapled together it is. Like, I can just see completely through, like, how they have the two casts together. The effects are just oddly awful. Like those like Sentinels are just awful. I
actually thought they looked pretty good. So.
The ones from, like, the future with, like, the opening face don't look too bad, but when you get, like, to the bad 70s anime robots they have at the end, those are awful.
Yeah.
And and the effects just seem to get worse and worse as the movie keeps going.
I mean, I don't.
They're supposed to look like 70s robots because that's when they're from.
But it looks like it's from a 90s anime. It doesn't.
It looks like it's from a 90s comic book or cartoon, actually.
There you go. It's so bad, but it's.
I don't disagree, but I mean, I don't know, man. There's just so much to. There's so much to like in this movie.
Great.
That first action scene with, like, Blink using the portals and the Sentinels, like, coming through and just all of that stuff.
I love the imagery of them, or of the Sentinels stepping on Bobby's frozen head.
like they hide, like, this gruesome imagery, but it's okay. They're all fire and they're all iron and they're all ice. It's okay. The moments are great, Tyler. I'm not going to argue with you with that. And you know what? I'm not coming to the X-Men movies for, like, this coherent, flowing narrative. So, like, I am willing to forgive. Like, goddamn, it has a climax. It's full of scenes of people trying to talk each other off the ledge, off the proverbial ledge all the time. And those scenes are just great. And the moments are great. Like, goddamn it, the Quicksilver scene is just wonderful. And, like, these action scenes, when they're animated properly, are wonderful. So, like, I like it. I think this is so much better than, like, the alternative out right now, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, this is so much better than, like, Avengers 2 or Captain America, like, what Marvel was creating at this time.
This movie, it's so absurdly more entertaining than your average Marvel Studios movie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, even, like, the scene of Hugh Jackman waking up.
Yeah.
Which, like, in a Marvel movie, they just cut to him, like waking up, and they just cut away to him somewhere out in the city. Whereas in this, he just wakes, somebody's like, what the fuck is going on? Who's this? People walking, they're like, who the fuck are you?
Best part. Woke up naked.
Oh, yeah.
Hugh Jackman
He wasn't supposed to do that. He wasn't supposed to wake up naked. He told the director was like, okay, you're going to wake up in your boxers. And he was like, no, I'm not. I was just looking at time. Have you never seen Terminator? I'm waking up naked.
You're right. It's absurdly entertaining, and I will vouch for it so much more than any Marvel or for any other superhero movies out right now.
Any further thoughts?
This is much more amusing and entertaining as opposed to your normal Marvel sort of film. Because I remember leaving when I saw this with the Infamous Cat person. I remember leaving after seeing this, going, "What did I just watch? And did I like it? I think I kind of did." Even though, like, the portal shit and, like, with all the Sentinels, it's like, okay. And like the world building with the future, was it 2020, like in like late, like 2030 or
I
something?
mean, I don't really know.
I don't like it's
Was the same year
sure.
that Logan happens.
2029.
right?
Okay. Oh, okay.
Right? That's interesting.
Huh. Interesting.
Fun fact: Logan is in a third timeline.
These fucking movies. I love this series relationship of continuity, which is just fuck it.
I mean, it makes it a lot more amusing than the Marvel Syndicate.
Where like everything's just so meticulously constructed to the point that you just don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Okay.
So we all like Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
I have some issues with it, but yeah, it's a good movie.
All right. We're going to have to pick up the pace here a little bit because we are running very long. But
do we want to talk about the Wolverine, or do we just want to go straight to Logan?
Let's quickly run down the Wolverine, just because I think it makes a nice companion piece to Logan. Only you and I saw it recently, so we'll just run this down pretty quick.
The Wolverine, it's the first James Mangold Wolverine movie. It's about Hugh Jackman going to Japan and getting involved with people and not wanting to get involved with people, but then he learns he wants to get involved with people. And there's this awful, awful third act sequence where he stabs him out of the giant silver samurai suit.
Okay, so the third act of this movie is like utter nonsense. It doesn't really work at all. The first two acts really make this it's such a weird movie. It's like about death and like
and it's about like him, like it is about just being exhausted by the life he's lived and just finally wanting to age.
Wolverine like finally like just gets himself away from everybody and like he doesn't really want to be part of this world anymore. And yet like he goes to that old Japanese guy who like wants to like take his healing powers like for himself so he can live longer. And Wolverine's like, I would not like foist that upon anyone else. Like you don't want what I've got.
And then there's like the weird sequence of like where they go to the Japanese hotel.
Yeah.
And like it's this weird sex hotel. And it's just like these movies are just made up of such great little set pieces and such great little moments.
Yeah.
And like it's genuinely about this character and the battered life he's lived.
Yeah.
Now, it's not about like stitching together action sequences where you can cut people up. Though the train sequence is great.
The train sequence is great. You have like that character who like can like see other people's deaths is like so interesting. And like you even have like a weird kind of horror movie moment where he's like operating on himself to like pull that thing out of his heart.
Oh yeah, and there's like the scene of like him like look in the train and he's like covered in blood. It's like, oh shit, I'm not healing.
Yeah,
and there's like this weird humanity to that.
I think like you can see flashes in this movie of like the borderline R-rated movie that I think James Mangold wanted to make.
Yeah, but then they said, like, you need to have a third act fight sequence. You need to have a guy in a silver samurai suit.
It's it's not great. But, this movie is so interesting, and you can really see the seeds of, like, James Mangold, like, wanting to make a really interesting, serious Wolverine movie.
With a serious eye on world building.
Yeah.
This vision of Japan that the movie builds is so fleshed out and fascinating.
Yeah. And, it just feels so different from all the rest of the X-Men movies. It's such a weird diversion. They go to Japan. It's such a different, weird world over there. And, I really like it. And
it looks so much better than like a typical superhero movie.
Third act notwithstanding, the Wolverine is is really good.
If you really got out of Logan jazzed and wanting more, and you for some reason just missed the Wolverine, you're going to see a lot of the same seeds. I think you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Are we ready, kids?
All right.
Yeah, Captain.
Let's get.
Okay. I would like to put this on record. Just like what I said about Tony Erdmann, Logan is a mini movie in some parts.
God damn it.
And the reason why I say that is that there's an action sequence where it's just to the tune of a piano, and it's with Logan just like cutting people off. Just driving and blood everywhere, and this is also the first scene we see Laura with adamantium claws, and then we sort of wonder, it's like, ooh, like she with any relation with Logan, and then it's quickly answered, yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, you can introduce Logan.
So Logan, 2017's Logan, hard R rated, very kind of somber, James Mangold directed last ride for Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and I love it, man. It's so good. It's so good. And I kind of teased this last week. We're going full spoilers here, so throwing caution to the wind here. This was the first movie to make me cry in 12 years. You know, I don't cry at movies. I just don't. And I was sitting there, and man, you know, when Han Solo died in Force Awakens, I just felt nothing. And watching Hugh Jackman as Wolverine die was already getting me there. When the little girl calls him daddy, I just lost it, man.
It's the ultimate tearjerker. It's like, daddy. It's
I was just because
I'm gonna be honest here, and you guys might think I am less human for this. I didn't cry during this movie. I cried during Star Trek Beyond when they destroyed the Enterprise. I didn't cry during this.
You aren't human.
How many times has the Enterprise been destroyed, Warner?
Just in the movies. We're not including the show where they blast it to pieces endlessly. But I can't say I cried during. I guess the closest that I ever came to crying during it was the scene where like they stop the car, and like the little girl says like, when she speaks English when it's dramatically important, and she's like, "You are dying. You want to die," and like, and maybe this is even beforehand, where it's like his face just looks so red and so scarred, and he's got the full gray beard going, and he just looks so sad and defeated, and just to see and to come off like these X-Men movies where he's constantly running around and slashing people up and being invincible. And that image just really got to me for some reason.
I can throw in a little bit of background information right now. This movie is based loosely off the Old Man Logan timeline.
Yeah.
Which I believe, I haven't read it, but I believe from what I have read about it is a world in which Logan is allergic to the adamantium.
Yeah. And they have this thing in this movie where like the adamantium inside of him is like poisoning him.
He is having a bad reaction to it where it is killing him over time, and it's slowing down his healing factor.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be able to survive.
Yeah, and they kind of establish it like right off the bat, like he's not healing the way he used to. You know, he's older, he's slower. And one thing I just want to say with it, you really feel the weight, you know, of this. This movie feels like the end of an era. Like Hugh Jackman, this is his last one. He's leaving the part that he kind of helped define. I found out recently.
Stewart stuff.
Patrick Stewart is so good in this movie.
Like that I think that really cements it as like this end of like to see that character in such a low place and just so destroyed.
And they establish like without ever really like over explaining it, like he killed all the other X-Men. Like what?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
he killed over 400 people and injured another 17,000. If I heard the numbers correctly.
But you don't ever like see it. It's never fully explained because they don't feel the need to.
No, yeah. All you need is like the scene where like Patrick Stewart says like, "This is a perfect night, but I don't deserve it." And he's like,
my God.
And you get the idea. It's like, wait a minute, he was never told this. He doesn't know what happens, and he's finally putting it together, and that's just so fucking like, heartbreaking.
One of the first things you texted me, like, just one of the first things John texted me after seeing this movie was like, "It's a great Patrick Stewart performance," and I think like all three of the leads in this are giving like Oscar caliber performances, but him especially is just insane.
The fact that Patrick Stewart's character is confessing all of this, and it's not to Logan.
I love the little moment where it's like, and like you get the sense that like he is Logan finds it very difficult to create relationships, and like when he does create them, there's always like the sense, like he even says at one point, everyone, bad things happen to people I care about.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart is like the last thing I have. Professor X is the last thing I have. I will try my fucking damnedest.
Yeah.
To not fuck this up, and to have like the first thing he says, like, it wasn't me, and he's like dragging, he wraps him up in a blanket and takes him out to the truck, and like there's this real sense of caring, between these two. Like, as for all the acidic vitriol spewed throughout this movie with Professor X saying "fuck off" at some point, I think.
So I just have to bring this up, like James Mangold is like the maybe the only director I've seen who has like fully prevailed, made his vision for a movie burst fully free of the studio machinery.
Yeah.
Even more so,
it seems that way.
Like James Gunn like has gotten the closest with Marvel, like, but he's like working comfortably and putting some style in within the mechanics of the Marvel machine.
The same with Bryan Singer. It seems like you feel his presence, but he's still like Days of Future Past was created because they wanted to smash the two casts together.
Yeah,
that's what that was about.
And James Mangold, and here's why. I looked it up. James Mangold is 53 years old. I've spoken about this before. When you take these young indie filmmakers and transplant them to the studio system, of course they're not going to make good movies. They're not going to know how.
They don't have the tools to manage the studio fuckery, whereas, like, this might be a thing we're coming to with this podcast, that older filmmakers,
they
know what the fuck they're doing.
James Mangold had a full career before he came on these movies, and you really feel him, like, wanting to make a movie that is interesting, that is different, and they let him, and it's great, and he's able to do it, and oh my god, this movie has such a vision to it. It's a Western. It's got a great world going on. And
a Western with a Western within the Western.
Yes.
Yes.
Which they quote, and that's just wonderful. Like,
which we're going to have to watch Shane at some point.
Well, of course. Now, there is no like setting up for other movies. There was no, like, huge third act finale.
Yeah. It
feels huge, this movie. Yet it's built from such small little set pieces and such personal set pieces, too. Mm-hmm. Like, the thrust of this movie is about this character, as like all great movies are, like, the relationships of this character. His relationship to Professor X, his relationship to his daughter of sorts. And his relationship to the world. Yeah. Insofar as he is just so battered by the life he has lived, and just so battered by the world around him, and continues to be battered by the world around him. Yeah. And just how tired he is, and how much Hugh Jackman sells that. Yeah. Like, it is a masterpiece of blockbuster filmmaking.
He is a weary, weary man, and they fully commit to it, and God, the violence in this movie. This is a brutal movie.
Like, the blood. He is always covered in blood, and he is always, anytime he stabs someone, like, you see the claws come out of their fucking face, and decapitations are in this movie.
Oh my god.
The little girl coming out with the decapitated head and rolling it across the ground. Even seeing it the second time, I was still flinching at some of this stuff, because it is just so visceral.
Yeah,
it's... it's good.
This little girl has a body count.
Yes.
God, the young actress Daphne Keane, I believe is her name.
Oh, she's so fucking good.
She's great. Mm-hmm. She's great. Yeah. I wish her a long and prosperous career. Good child actors are so hard to come across, and god damn it, they hit the nail on the head. Yeah. There's just such a world with this movie, and I did want to bring this up. Like, I've rarely seen a movie that just had such a complete control over, like, its image and, like, what it was selling. Like, the marketing campaign for this movie was pitch perfect, from the poster to the first trailer with, like, Johnny Cash's hurt.
And you hear Johnny Cash over the credits.
And like, the movie they sold was the movie we got. And that happened so rarely. Like, I've rarely seen a more perfect, like, marketing campaign since, like, The Social Network. Oh, man, this movie...
It's a perfect blockbuster.
I love it, man. It's so good. And
I think this may be the perfect blockbuster. You're right.
It has a big budget of sorts, or a big budget by comparison.
It has a relatively small budget, actually. Like, this movie was made for less than $100 million.
Oh, less than that? Gee, well, look. And you know what? They use it damn well. Like, you see like all these little contraptions, and they all feel so real and lived in and practical. Like that they don't give the villain some shitty CGI hand. It's like this real prosthetic that's really lived in. And this movie has little moments, like the scene where one of the claws won't come out fully, and he's pulling it out.
Oh,
and
man.
they add the detail that, like, anytime the claws come out, he's bleeding.
Yeah.
Like, his knuckles bleed when that happens, and he's always wiping it off.
Which you feel like should have been happening, like, the whole time.
Yeah, well, of course, but, like, PG-13.
It was happening all the time, but his body was healing fast enough that it didn't bleed for more than a second.
Okay.
That could be. I'll buy it.
I'll buy it.
I'll buy it.
Yeah, and
I think I'll buy it, yeah.
you feel the old man Logan-ness, not, like, of the relationship to the comics necessarily, but, like, of just the character. And this is definitely my favorite superhero movie of, like, the last 5 years, and maybe longer.
Yeah, it's the best X-Men movie. It's the best, like, well, it doesn't have X-Men on it, like, but it is, like, of this franchise, it's the best thing.
It's the best movie to feature X-Men characters.
Yes. It's got, like, all the best movies, it's an experience. Like, you sit down, like, you just really feel this world coming over you. You feel these characters. It's melodramatic sometimes, but god damn it, do they sell it. Like, Professor X is so tragic in this movie.
Yes, it's
and you just and when he dies, you're like, damn it, damn it.
You know, I've been known for my cynicism. You know, in the lead up to this movie, I like openly voiced my hope that they would like basically just kill off everybody.
Yeah.
But, you know, by the time it rolled around, I didn't want it to happen.
Like, no, I don't want Hugh Jackman to die. No, I don't want Professor X to... No, the albino died? No!
I felt so bad for him, too. The albino.
Yeah, Caliban.
It's popped over.
Stephen Merchant gives a very great performance, I think, also.
Oh, everyone's great in this movie.
Yeah. I have to ask, though, what did you guys think of, like, bigger, badder clone Wolverine? That's maybe the one thing in this movie that didn't quite work for me, but
that's it's something.
He's in the movie for like 2 scenes. They get rid of him pretty quickly in both.
Yeah.
The reason he exists is because they wanted a really tragic Professor X death.
Yeah.
And they got that. He served his purpose. I can't say I'm too thrilled. I kind of hate that concept where it's like, oh, it's just another Wolverine.
Yeah. Well, it feels kind of like the whole, like, the Iron Man thing where it's like, who's the villain? A bigger Iron Man suit.
Yeah, but if anything, it also kind of sells Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
It's like, we see, like, what he was before.
Yeah.
And we just see, like, what he's become just being ripped into. And that's a tragic image.
And I think, like, Clay Keller brought this up, you kind of see the balance between, like, the humanity you see with like Laura / X-23 or whatever and X-24, you kind of get like the two sides of Logan, like in different people. You kind of have maybe a better, more human version of him, and then you have like his rage and animal nature, just completely devoid of all humanity. And that is an interesting idea.
That's it. I can't quite say they sell that all that well, but that's there. That is fucking Logan. It's everything we hope for and more.
Yeah.
I'm fucking floored, man. I'd seen it a third time. I fucking love this movie.
I just don't know if I can go through it. It is hard to watch at times.
The scene where he's in the middle walk.
Professor X, when they're still at the base in Mexico, when he's in the tank, the first time you see him, that was so painful to watch.
Such a great scene.
And like Logan in like the walk-in clinic, where it's like he's just covered in scars, and he just wakes up, and they're like, "Oh, I thought we'd have to tell little girl that their daddy was gone."
Oh man.
And I'm like, okay, daddy.
Don't even, man. Don't even.
It is so rare that like a perfect blockbuster comes out, because like there were so many like competing ideas and so many different people involved in these projects.
Yeah.
And it's so rare that these things. That's the modern blockbuster has so often devolved into just kind of a loose amalgamation of ideas and images, and that's how these movies feel sometimes.
Yeah.
Like these X-Men movies. But like, God, this one, you're right. There was such a control and such a vision to it that it overcomes every obstacle, and
Yeah.
I'm.
Do we have anything else to say? Because I have like one final story I just want to close this out with.
Yeah, no, let's close out with that. Like
I love
Yeah.
that played at the beginning.
The what?
The Daredevil trailer.
the Deadpool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I
then
hated that.
you're a soulless being because,
That's...
dude, I did not laugh once.
Well, I was like, okay, it's okay, like the Superman theme and going to the phone booth. Okay, that's funny enough. Then he sticks his ass on the glass. I'm like, oh, this is for 13-year-olds. And then there's the weird ass bit where he lays down on the dead guy and eats ice cream. I'm like, what psychopath is laughing at this?
That would have worked better if like the Deadpool they'd created in the movies was actually like a psychopath, but
Yeah, but
he's not.
They gave him an arc.
Oh, he's getting there. Trust me.
I don't know. It's whatever. Anyway, so I just want to close this out with like one more story. I saw this movie in just a theater full of people. There were children there. The first time anyway. But you know,
Parents.
I just want to say what a difference a few years makes, because when we saw Days of Future Past, we stayed till the end to see the end credits scene. When it was over, I think, John, you will recall, you booed loudly. You know, I have gotten more cynical in the years since I first saw Days of Future Past, and I saw this movie the first time with my roommates, and we stayed until the end of the credits just because I had to just recompose myself and I wanted to just soak it all in. But a lot of other people stayed expecting a post-credits scene.
Oh, Jesus.
And I knew there wouldn't be one, because Logan is a movie. It is a real, honest-to-God movie. And when the last credits rolled and the end logos came up, there were audible like ahs, and like people went ah, like we stayed for nothing. And I as I was walking out, I yelled, "It's a real movie. There's no post-credit scene. This is what a movie looks like. Go home." So
That is the equivalent of me yelling boo to the quasi-apocalypse trailer at the end of Days of Future Past.
Yes.
I admit, I stayed to watch for a end credit scene. Now, my girlfriend had to recompose herself while we were there. That's part of why we stayed, but I stayed, and here's why. Because there were shots released of Wolverine's comic book suit that was supposed to be in this movie, and it wasn't.
Good.
There were shots released of it, like in a display case somewhere, and I expected them to show Laura and the others at whatever location they end up at, and finding that in like a museum or something. I don't know.
Well, granted, you do have the love when they're at like the quasi-Wolverine funeral. One of them's holding a Wolverine toy,
Yes.
and like there's the comics in the movie.
yeah, that's a great touch.
This is a very meta movie. It's a very meta movie.
It's a meta movie.
It was very obvious from pretty much the very beginning, and I liked it.
Oh God, this movie. You're right. It's a real goddamn movie. It's not an episode of TV. It's not leading up to anything. It is a complete and full experience.
That said,
God damn it, I wish movies were like this.
That said, I will willingly watch a movie featuring X-23, but I'd be just as happy if they don't make one.
Yeah, and I think they're going to leave this alone.
Yeah.
Granted, I wonder what the sequel to Apocalypse is going to be.
I think it's going to be like a 90s Dark Phoenix story, which I'm on board for. You know,
would Bryan Singer do it, or are they just...
I think Bryan Singer might do it. He said he might not. I think they were thinking about having Simon Kinberg direct it, which we'll see how that goes. But I think, if nothing else, it will be entertaining.
Yes. Like, all of these movies... Well, I mean, Apocalypse is just batshit crazy.
Yeah. Apocalypse is a very entertaining movie.
Warner and Reed, you've seen Apocalypse, right?
No, I said earlier this episode I have not.
Well,
it is. Like, there is a scene. We've told you guys about the Who the Fuck Are You scene, right?
Probably, but I don't remember.
There's a scene where Michael Fassbender as Magneto is about to, like, kill some people, and Apocalypse and his, like, 3-person crew of evil mutants shows up behind him, and Michael Fassbender turns around, looks straight into the camera, and says, "Who the fuck are you?"
Followed by, "Don't you stop me from killing these men."
Oh, God. You know...
And there's a scene where Magneto destroys Auschwitz.
X-Men Apocalypse. It's not good, but Warner, if you like X-Men: The Last Stand, you will enjoy Apocalypse. I think I can guarantee that.
Well, X-Men: The Last Stand is all the awfulness, but without any of the fun.
So, we like X-Men. I think that's the lesson here. We like these X-Men movies.
I'm excited what will come next.
And you know, my roommates had frequently accused me of having a soft spot for the X-Men movies, and I was like, no, I just am like not down with the MCU. But you know, crying at Logan may have convinced me I do have a soft spot for the X-Men movies.
When they say like, well, ask them what the fuck is so good about the MCU.
I don't want to have that argument again.
Oh God, have you already had that argument?
My roommate and I argue about Civil War like once a month. It is rough. But all right,
you have us, and we are all MCU skeptics.
Sort of.
Fuck you. I'm sorry, Warner. Your opinion is valid.
All right. What are we doing next week?
Oh, Jesus, I haven't planned for this.
Well, I'm not going to be here for next week or the week after.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah,
so
he's going on vacation.
So we've got some time here. All right, I've got a couple of ideas. We should save our German film episode for when Reed gets back, I think, because
we're German history buffs.
He's been a strong advocate of that.
Yes.
If you guys want to do another superhero week, I could probably make either next week or the week after.
I
was thinking you guys do that, yeah.
We could watch Ang Lee's batshit crazy Hulk movie.
Can we watch some non-superhero movies, please?
Yep, I had fully planned for that. Okay, so what was your ideas?
So
I have an idea of my own, but I'm curious what you have.
Well, I was thinking we could either do our Alexander Payne episode or a Woody Allen episode, maybe.
I was thinking we could finally tackle the bear that is Christopher Nolan.
Oh. Well, actually, I think we should save that for when Dunkirk comes out.
When is Dunkirk a summer movie?
Yeah, it comes out sometime in July.
I can wait for that because that's a topic we are going to have to take on.
We are going to have to. That'll just basically be like an all Christopher Nolan movies episode. I think.
Yeah, practically. So
you're right. We do have to tackle that.
Yeah. But okay. So either Alexander Payne or what was the other one?
Woody Allen.
Let's do Woody Allen.
Let's do Woody Allen. Okay.
I have seen far less Woody Allen than I've seen Alexander Payne, and I need to.
Okay.
Which is one movie versus two movies.
But I do want to come back to the Alexander Payne episode sometime soon.
Maybe we'll do that next week. Who knows?
Okay, good plan.
So we want to do Husbands and Wives.
Yes.
That's for certain. Do we want to do Midnight in Paris?
I was thinking Hannah and Her Sisters, but if you want to watch Midnight in Paris, go for it. I might try to.
I'm on spring break. I could do fucking anything.
Okay, cool.
I'll see. Okay, so Hannah and Her Sisters and Husbands and Wives, and maybe Midnight in Paris. Okay. So yeah, good plan.
That's a good slate. We're finally returning to the Woody Allen well after
a year.
After a year. Good.
I've never seen Manhattan all the way through either.
Oh, okay. Check that out if you care to.
Also, the only Woody Allen movie I've seen is Cafe Society.
Cafe Society. I think you'd like Annie Hall.
You would like Annie Hall.
So,
okay.
Reed, if you're like stuck on the plane and you have nothing to do, whip out Annie Hall if you can.
Okay. I probably
can being the operative words.
We'll never know. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
We'll see you back here for Woody Allen Week.
We accidentally did the longest episode we've ever done.
Well, we'll see.
Something that might be interesting for later. Laura, X-23, the second Wolverine, she broke out of the facility that cloned her on her own and lived as a prostitute for many years until she met him.
Okay.
No. The only thing I'm really thinking about that is like when clients go wrong, like what happens, like because obviously we saw in Logan that at first she can't control her like wield her adamantium claws and start cutting. So I'm kind of wondering, would that happen if like a client goes wrong and then it's like, you know what, shink.
Do I need to drive over there and smack him?
I don't think so.
Smack the cat. Or are you talking about smacking me? Well, that's deserved. I am going to say that, like...
Oh, no. Oh, no. No! No!
The first burn victim, Tyler, was taken during our X-Men Apocalypse episode. And now another burn victim, Tyler, from this X-Men. It all comes around full circle.
God damn it.
We're going through to the other side.